problem.
Okay.
Donc, I will just say a few words then on behalf of GIZ and offer some conclusions for today's webinar, if I may. So first of all, GIZ, as you might know, is the development agency of the German government, and we are supporting the Union for the Mediterranean in its work in the areas of employment and trade, including investment promotion. And we are also a co-organizer of this ANIMA webinar series. And so let me first say that GIZ is very glad to support this initiative, because we firmly believe that investments should not only be made with a view to financial profits, but also with the intention to generate positive social and environmental impact. This applies, of course, even more right now, in my opinion, because of the corona crisis, which is bound to have a huge impact on the economies around the Mediterranean, economically, socially, even psychologically. And so it's great to see that ANIMA remains very active despite the situation, and that this initiative is still being launched and going ahead, even if it's not in a physical meeting. So if I may offer some conclusions from my point of view on today's webinar, I think it has shown that there are already a lot of investment promotion agencies and networks and firms that do follow a triple bottom line approach, in which they want to promote sustainable investments or invest into companies that contribute to sustainable development, or that even use socioeconomic indicators as the OECD has outlined. And this is, of course, particularly important for MSMEs, who make up 96% of all registered companies in the MENA region. As was indicated by the Secretary General of the UfM this morning, and then also repeated in some presentations, is that impact investing can actually deliver returns that match or even exceed those of traditional private equity managers. But I think today's webinar has also made clear that there are a lot of public and private investors who are still trying to build and increase the impact investing portfolio. And what they need is conceptual and practical guidance. And I think today's webinar has shown that initiatives such as the Climate Plan or Act 3 in the Côte d'Azur region is a great example on how political will and initiatives are important to mobilize and guide investors that want to have a positive impact on sustainable development. And so is Gafi's investment mapping exercise in Egypt, which is an extremely practical tool from my point of view for private investors that can incentivize sustainable investments. And then also, I think the presentations by Diego Guri and Duja Gabi have shown that the private sector is equally active and self-organizing and self-motivated for the benefit of sustainable investments, and is identifying its own business opportunities, creates an own CSR label for its companies, and engages in a dialogue with governments and employees, as in the case of Connect Tunisia. And lastly, I think one takeaway from today's webinar is certainly that the SDGs can and should serve as a guidance and framework, as Ahmed has also outlined. They are a very useful framework for investors and can help them to assess the relationship between their investments and sustainable impact. I think that the SDGs provide a context for impact investors to see how their investment strategies and objectives fit into a sort of broader development effort. And they, I think, can be a powerful reference to align impact objectives between public investors on the one hand and private investors on the other. So I think this seminar has sort of been a very hopeful one. And I, for my part, would like to thank all participants. And I feel especially glad that more workshops and seminars are being organized by ANIMA for this and the following week, and will be an opportunity to really zoom in on specific aspects of impact investing, including, of course, the corona crisis, which will mean a huge disruption for all economies and will certainly have to lead to a lot of adaptations and reconsiderations of many existing strategies for impact investing. So thank you very much from my side, and I give the floor back to you, Emmanuel.